ITDS. This is a monthly interview series that I facilitate. My name is Joe Yankas. I'm one of the instructional designers at ITDS. Every month we come together just for an informal conversation with a guest or a few guests on a particular topic related to teaching and learning. And today I'm joined by Joe Bavazzano, the director of the ADP Center. And I thought this topic would be of particular interest as a university, a larger university. You might walk around campus and know of some centers and some resources available, but others you might never hear about. And as someone who's been with the university for just under 2 years now, I had not personally wandered downstairs on the same floor that I work in to the ADP Center until this presentation came together. So it just give a space to share a little bit about what the ADP Center is. And we're going to also have a conversation about EdTech and just what's going on related to teaching and learning and some trends in EdTech today. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Bavazzano, and as Joe said, I'm the director of the ADP Center for Learning Technologies. We're housed on the first floor of University Hall, and we are part of the College of Education and Human Services. So a little bit about the ADP Center. Our charge is to incorporate, education technology into teaching, learning, and research in pretty much all facets of the College of Education and Human Services. I have the kind of creative job of coming up and following different trends, coming up with different solutions using different technologies and applications that we might use every day, we might have never heard of. So we kind of coined the phrase, the ADP Center is where education meets innovation, because we try to take something simple that we do every day and leverage that into an impactful solution for our students, for our staff, for our faculty, and for our community partners as well.
Speaking of where education meets innovation and marketing, there is a video that we wanted to off with. I know Joe is very proud of this video. And I think it's going to frame the conversation nicely and introduce the ADP Center. And then we're going to elaborate a little bit on some of the things in this video. So let me play this.
The ADP Center for Learning Technologies is where education meets innovation. Centrally located on the first floor of one of our campus's busiest buildings, University Hall. We cultivate an atmosphere that encourages new ways to think, create, problem solve, and grow, serving students, faculty, staff, and the greater university community. The center provides instruction and support through the incorporation of technology in learning, research, and teaching. We are a collaborative hub with highly mediated spaces, interactive labs, and digital media studios, while acting as a resource for transdisciplinary research. At the heart of the center is the Commons, where all come together to connect and share ideas. Use our innovative technology to expand classroom learning and engagement, or meet with our team to sharpen your EdTech skills. We believe in fostering relationships with internal and external partners by enhancing perspective on what technology can do at one of our hands-on training workshops. From content creation and media services to discovering the latest trends, our team looks forward to working with you. Be bold, challenge yourself, and explore the possibilities of limitless learning. Join us at the ADP Center.
I see Keith clapping. That was a great video.
Thank you. We worked, Christos in marketing and communications can make everybody look good.
No, and the center looks great. Everything looks great and accurate too, because even in my visits down there were students there. And it always draws in a nice crowd. So
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit and talk about some of the things in that video and in general, the services offered at the ADP Center.
Yeah, absolutely. So the video we tried to show all the things that we're most proud of. A lot of that video, we do these education technology demos with our pre-service teachers. So we have students that, are going to go out into the field, but before they leave, we want to show them what technology is out there, what things can they expect to see in a classroom, and what technology, are the students already using. So we work with our Montclair State Network for Educational Renewal partner districts. There's about 30 of them, as well as some outside professional development groups. So I'm in the schools a lot. I get to see, what teachers are using, what applications, what hands-on technology, what's the price point of it, what's realistic. So we try to do these demos to show our pre-service teachers what they're getting into, and how the students are going to respond to that. So a lot of that video was made up of these demo sessions, which are really just meant to be an hour or two of playing around, being creative, because technology, I think sometimes all of us are guilty of it. It's frustrating. Sometimes we forget why we're using the technology, and it's to improve our lives. It's to improve the way we learn. It's to improve the way we teach. So creating this kind of safe space in the ADP Center, the commons, our classrooms, our labs, it's meant to be this inclusive kind of space where you can learn how to do something in a structured environment where there's staff that wants to help you. We offer, in addition to those demos, some of the stuff in the video, we saw our digital media suite and our recording studios. We've been big into kind of creating different content, whether it's for use in the classroom or outside the classroom. We're there to show you that it's not scary. We're there to show you that no matter what your relationship is with technology, we want to help, and you could improve the way you're doing something using technology. I'm the first person to say, okay, like how do we make this better? I'm the first person to figure out, okay, well, maybe this is a problem, but let's figure out is there a way to leverage a solution, to a problem. So it's not just about technology, it's about your relationship with problem solving. And I think that's kind of where it all begins. And that's what makes us unique, is we're a safe space to say, I don't like the way this works. Let's figure it out together.
And I think having that space is really important, especially as you mentioned, everyone has a different relationship with technology. Some people are okay with jumping right in and exploring, experimenting, and some people feel, I think, a little vulnerable with trying something new. And so having a space like the ADP Center where they can go and explore and experiment and try things out in a safe space, I think is really important.
Yeah, and like all of our spaces are designed for unique situations, whether it's a classroom that's designed for active learning, whether it's the commons that's designed to kind of be a space that just becomes a messy catch-all for whatever we can, throw at it. Our spaces are unique. Our digital media suite was created in response to a teacher performance assessment, and a space for students to kind of come in initially and record their teaching and view it collaboratively and see, hey, when I'm in a classroom, I teach this way, or when I'm in a classroom, I teach this way. That space has kind of evolved from what its original use was, and designing spaces that can evolve and can meet the needs of our learners and, whoever our patrons may be that day is really important. So the digital media suite is something that I'm pretty proud of. That was the first major kind of project when I started that I was able to kind of like design from scratch. So the digital media suite kind of has evolved into a podcasting studio, into a training room, still a studio space, still have at our editing stations, but that room gets used in so many different ways. We need to be able to pivot. Something that I've written in my, my reappointment paperwork is the center needs to constantly be evolving. If we're not evolving to meet the needs of who our learners are, then I'm not doing a good job and the center's not effective. So being able to kind of constantly be evolving, constantly be changing is really important to what we do.
So with so much going on to meet those needs, and you just kind of gave a very broad overview of a lot that's happening, but I want to focus a little bit in,
Sure.
So specifically for faculty, right? Let's say all the faculty on our staff on this call today, what's one or two things, if they were to walk into the center tomorrow, a service they could utilize or to bring an idea to life, or like just walk us through that?
Sure. So we also offer, so in addition to, being a space, we offer a full lineup of professional development opportunities. Ones that are curated more specifically towards staff, some that are, more towards faculty, some that are really towards anybody. We try to come up with a diverse lineup to meet the needs of everyone that comes in, because I don't have one focus area. So we're working with students, we're working with staff, we're working with faculty, and they all have different needs. So taking one of our workshops, for example, I'm going to just look at one. So if we were doing Canva presentations and talking about how to engage with Canva and how to create a brand and how to create content, faculty can come in and meet with one of our team members for a one-on-one consultation pretty much anytime. Or they can come in and say, hey, I don't like the way this works. I'm there 5 days a week, generally. My door is always open. So we work with faculty a lot of times where it's something creative, where somebody just kind of strikes up a conversation and says, hey, I want to do this better. Or, hey, how do we use podcasting in our classroom? Hey, and that's kind of how the wheels start spinning. And then nothing kind of gets me happier than when somebody comes in and said, I want to do something different. I had a faculty member walk in my office the other day and say, hey, I'm kind of bored with the way I'm teaching. How do we use Zoom better? I have a friend that teaches the same, like a similar course at another university. How do we bridge that gap? So we sit down and we kind of start being creative. We start throwing some ideas down. So we have our structured kind of lineup of events that we can work with faculty on. Any of those events can be custom curated for your class. I was in a classroom, I don't even know what day it is. I was in a classroom on Tuesday and we were doing ePortfolio and teaching students how to make websites with Google Sites. I'll go in, one of my graduate assistants will go in. Any of our team members are happy to help. So we offer this full lineup of workshops that can be requested on demand, as well as, throughout the semester. But we also will work on special projects as well and kind of take on whatever your request may be.
List off a few of those workshops in terms of topics, like if you had to name it off the top of your head.
So don't worry, I have my lineup in front of
Or you
me.
have a list in front of you.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of stuff with virtual reality this semester. So that's been kind of a buzzword. Our workshops are kind of custom curated by the requests we get from faculty and students and staff the year before, as well as kind of matching what the learning trends are. So we're doing, like I said, VR, we're doing mindfulness and meditation apps. I used to run this workshop series called Appy Hour, where we would kind of just dive into one app for, that hour and play with it and kind of figure out what it was. But we realized that kind of got stale. So reinventing it, we tried to kind of customize these curated selection of apps to different topics. So we've noticed digital well-being has been kind of a hot topic, especially after the pandemic. We all heard of like Zoom fatigue. So how do we change our relationship with technology and how do we become mindful of it? So we have mindfulness workshops, like I said, Canva presentations, not Canvas, that's you guys. We're doing a lot of video editing, drop-in hours, a lot of workshops on content creation. We partner with different offices on campus. So we're working with career services and we have a whole lineup of LinkedIn workshops. And how do we, talk to students about what their online presence looks like, which is an interesting thing now, right? We're working with different sets of students. We have Gen Z coming in. We're still, figuring out how we respond to what they like, which has been a change, I think, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and coming back and figuring out how do we figure out what everyone needs right now. So this has been an interesting year.
And so I asked for that just because, just to talk about the different topics that you might offer. And obviously there's some overlap with the work ITDS does as well, but you guys offer so much related. You mentioned Canva, LinkedIn, and also I think a big distinction to highlight too is your work with students as well. So do you want to talk about that for a few minutes?
Sure. Working with students is one of my favorite things. The students can be extremely engaged. There's always a handful of students each year that come in and kind of like blow me away. I have students that are coming in that are working on a mini doc about their experience doing, being pre-service teachers and what that's like, what it's like student teaching. And they came in the other day and said, hey, there's space we can just kind of like spread out and work. And I'm like, yes, come in. What do you guys need? How can I help? And we did a crash course on how to use Adobe Premiere to teach these students how to edit. That's not necessarily, a traditional thing that we would offer, but these students came in and said, hey, does somebody know how to do this? And yeah, the answer was sure. We have a GA that's really good at editing. So let's talk about content creation and how we can structure the content you're getting to help inform the public about, what it's like being a student teacher at Montclair State. A lot of our workshops tend to have a student focus because that seems to be who's most actively engaging with us, like on a set schedule. We work a lot in class too. We work with all of the Gen Ed 199s for the College of Education and Human Services. So this past fall, we probably went into 14 different sections to kind of meet these students, get them familiar with some of the resources we can provide, and talk about, in this class, we talked about the relationship with technology and focused a lot on digital well-being and how it affects things like sleep hygiene, how it affects your mental health. So going beyond just teaching somebody how to use Canva to make a really good presentation, we try to take it that step further and bring awareness about different issues that impact student learning and engagement with technology.
And so the short of it is, as faculty, right, you can check out the ADP Center's website for workshops and kind of predefined and scheduled workshops, but also drop by for one-on-one consultations, or just bring up an idea, right? It sounds like that anyone could you could walk in and just say, having this issue, or like, I want to talk through this idea, or I've heard of this tool I've never touched before, let's talk about it. There's a lot of flexibility there.
Nothing makes me happier than when someone walks in and is like, hey, have you heard of this? And when I haven't, that's even more my favorite thing, because then I'll Google it and I'm like, hey, you're gonna hang on, sit down for 5 minutes, let's look at it together. And then we have time, then somebody comes in with an idea, and then I can have some of my graduate assistants work with me on, hey, is this the best tool we should be using for this problem? Let's do some digging. And going through and doing that digging and getting to be creative, that's where I think that's what really sets us apart, and that's what sets my team apart, because my team is made up of students. So it's made up of students that might be sitting in somebody's class one day, if a faculty member's coming in and saying, hey, how do we do this? So we offer a pretty unique perspective on finding solutions.
Where education meets innovation, one might say.
Boom. Yeah.
So before we get into talking about just more broader topics in ed tech, what's next for the ADP Center? What's new? What's up and coming? What can we look forward to?
Well, we're kind of at a very interesting crossroads right now. So next year, the College of Education and Human Services is splitting into 2 different colleges. So we will be housed within the College of Education and Engaged Learning. And what's really exciting about that is our focus might get to kind of shift a little bit. We might focus a little bit more on working with our pre-service teachers, working, in the field with our partner school districts, working with the community even more. So we're always going to be offering workshops to everyone. Nothing like that's ever going to change. And that's, that'll always be a service we provide to the campus community. But our workshop topics might change a little bit. We might try to be a little bit more focused, which will be interesting, because right now it's some of the struggles we do have is trying to meet such a wide constituency and coming up with content that's relevant to everyone. So we might focus a little bit more on classroom level kind of topics. We're definitely going to continue to expand on virtual reality, augmented reality, that everything kind of falls under that XR umbrella. We're going to be focusing on, whatever the current trends is, whether it's short form video, whether it's AI. We're constantly looking to try to see what's next. And it's interesting because some of the trends over the years, there's going to be somebody that's going to disagree with me, but 3D printing was really a hot button issue for, such a hot topic for a few years. Now we've kind of leveraged it into our day-to-day curriculum. So when something is new and, trending, we try to respond to that. So some of what's next is unknown. And I think that's so exciting because we're always going to be able to pivot. Because like I said, if we're not responding to what's next, we're not doing a good job.
Absolutely. And that unknown is the fun part, I think, of all of it, because we see a lot of that with our work in ITDS also. If you had told me in November and December that I was going to spend most of January immersed in ChatGPT, I would have asked, what's that? So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But before we do, I want to get to Patricia's question in the chat while we're still talking specifically about the ADP itself. So she asked if you offer PD sessions where, and Patricia, feel free to unmute if you want to elaborate a little bit. PD sessions where you come out of the school to assist first year, I guess where first year teachers can come into, was that related to recording yourselves, I believe, like recording your teaching? Patricia, feel free to elaborate on that if you'd like. The question was, do you offer this for teachers already in the classroom? In other words, do you offer PD sessions where you come out of the school to assist first-year teachers, for instance?
Okay, so I'll go with that. Sorry. Typically, we try to limit how much time we're out of the center, just because the only one that is traveling currently is me. But if there is I don't exactly know what the topic you're looking for would be for a PD session for first-year teachers. I would be happy to. We have done in the past when EdTPA was a thing, the teacher performance assessment that is no more. We were doing a lot of kind of custom on-demand workshops for how to best record yourself, how to kind of capture content in a classroom. How do we navigate permissions? How do we get the best shot? So we definitely, that's definitely an audience we serve. We do love, and like one of my favorite things, I mentioned the tech demos before, and those are great for even first year students that are already in the field. We've been doing those for teachers that are teaching in the field for years. And the conversation that surrounds the technology is even better. Because a seasoned teacher who's been, out in the field for years has seen the trends come and go. We've seen, when smartboards were the new cool thing, when that was like the ultimate classroom technology. So yeah, I'm happy, Patricia, if you want to reach out to me after the session, I'd love to work together.
Awesome. It's 10:24 already, Joe. Can you believe that?
Look at that.
And we haven't even gotten to the EdTech piece of this yet. So I do want to spend a few minutes talking about that. You mentioned so much related to the work you do, revolving around obviously what's new and what's latest, what the latest is in education technology. So let's just spend a few minutes kind of at a high level chatting about that. Maybe start with VR, AR, the metaverse.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. So it's funny, in doing a little prep for this, there was another term coined because we work with some outside organizations. Our biggest partner is NJECC. It's New Jersey Education Computing Cooperative. They are a large K-12 focused professional development provider. And their meetings we had last week, one of them was on XR. I was like, did we just make up something new? XR. And it's really interesting because the XR umbrella, everything falls within XR now. So how do we figure out how to use it in a classroom and how is that applicable to our students? And then when we think about it, we're thinking about AR, VR, XR, all of it. A lot of our students are already there. And we don't even realize that they're already using it. They're already part of these metaverses, because when I think metaverse, I think, maybe me being a millennial, I think, well, it's Facebook. Facebook, the parent company of Facebook is Meta. But the metaverse is really beyond that. It's really any virtual world or universe that's accessed through the internet, accessed through technology, where we're creating a virtual kind of environment that already exists or doesn't. So I think the whole XR, AR, VR world is really fascinating because 90% of Gen Z students are already on some type of metaverse platform, using apps like Roblox or Fortnite. If anybody has kids, I'm sure your kid has friends that, or has been talking about Roblox or Fortnite. So the user base for these apps is incredible. And those are video games. Those aren't even tools that we're thinking about. How do we leverage these tools into education? Educators, I think, are starting to do it and starting to get some real traction, because I think the key fundamental in using any technology is always meeting our students where they are. And I think sometimes we lose focus on that. But if we're trying to be realistic and increase student engagement and, trying to increase that spark in a student's eye that says, well, this person's going out of my way to meet me where I am. I think that's a connection that's really, can't be beat.
Pete, thank you for defining.
Oh, sorry. I could do, yeah.
AR,
I did a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. John asks, I thought XR equals extended reality. Have I been using it wrong?
No. So what's interesting is everything kind of falls within extended reality, augmented reality, virtual reality. It kind of all falls under that umbrella. And then the metaverse is kind of adjacent to that, where all of this extended reality could be taking place in a metaverse.
And related to teaching and learning, kind of taking it back to the classroom, like where could someone start in terms of thinking about how to incorporate this?
My favorite example is just start small, right? It could be something with doing a virtual field trip. It could be something where we're just kind of putting everyone in Google Earth. It doesn't need to be super intrusive or invasive, because it can get robust pretty quick. There's some cool free platforms out there. One of them is called Megaminds. It's an interactive platform for presentations and engagement. It's something cool to look up. So your class could be joining in this virtual, world in Megaminds and just engaging in a presentation that's a Google Slides presentation. But it lets them create an avatar. It kind of builds community within a virtual world, which is pretty powerful. There's another app called CoSpaces, which lets you kind of create a class-based environment, which is it's a little more robust. CoSpaces, there is a free version, but it can kind of get a little bit bigger kind of quick. If anybody's ever seen Minecraft, it feels kind of like you're in a Minecraft world. But it has a pretty free, robust library of tools, but it does have that classroom kind of based structure. So it gives you the control as the educator, kind of see where we're going. And we've been doing a lot of stuff. I was able last year to get some Oculus headsets, because we were thinking, like, how do we use this in the classroom? For years, I've been using the Google Cardboard headsets. I don't know if anyone's ever seen those, but the Google Cardboard headsets are a great $7, $8 kind of introduction into wearing a VR headset and what that's like. You're going to be using your phone. You're going to slip your phone in it. And YouTube has a really entry-level suite of videos and kind of scenarios where you can get your feet in the water, see what a virtual world is like, whether it's using Google Street View to walk through Times Square or Ellis Island. It's something different to kind of fully immerse your students in an environment that's outside the classroom without leaving the classroom.
And we talk so much about fostering student belonging, building community, especially in online courses. And by default, we turn to Canvas and some of the features available there. But there's so much more to look into and to explore within this and creating these spaces. And as you mentioned, meeting students where they are, especially if we're leveraging spaces that they're already on, which leads me to my next topic related to short form video and some of the apps students are using to consume these short 20, 40, 60-second videos through apps like Instagram Reels, through Facebook Watch, through YouTube Shorts, and one more app which we chat about only in passing just because of some security risks it may pose. But I do want to talk about that because it is how students are consuming media now. And in terms of meeting them where they are, whether it be producing your own or just thinking about how you could deliver your content in that style, or incorporating what exists already out there on these platforms, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating the way short form video has kind of taken the world by storm. It's found that kind of niche. It's part of our brain that really just likes to consume video. You get that instant gratification after watching one of these short form videos. And so, to not name the app that shall not be named, it's interesting to see how fast their user base grew. I did a presentation on this last year, almost a year ago to the day. The user base on that app was 65 million users. Pretty big base. As of February 2023, that user base has grown to 80 million, with that 60% of that user base being aged 16 to 24. So teaching at Montclair State, that's generally a large number of our students. So figuring out how do we leverage this type of content in our classes? How do we, take what's out there and make it relevant? How do we have our students thinking in, this outside the box way? Because if anybody's ever watched any of these short form videos, doesn't matter what platform you're on, it tends to kind of have its own dialect. And what I mean by dialect is it's witty, it's a little sarcastic, it's short, it's to the point, but it's very, very informative. And understanding the relationship our students have with this type of content is really powerful because they're consuming so much of it at, a record pace. So it's really interesting to, to see how they respond to it, especially as our, in higher education, our students are changing. We're getting a different generation of students, different generation of learners coming in, and seeing how they respond to things maybe outside the conventional way we've taught before. It's a little challenging, but it's also really exciting to kind of wrap our heads around.
And that's not to say that every faculty member should now produce 60-second lecture video a day. It's really just about acknowledging how we and students are consuming this content, and not to say what they've come to expect, but what they're doing and how the content they've become accustomed to now, I think, is important to acknowledge and be aware of.
Well, it's this like, and I don't mean to sound cynical, but it's like we've created this world where like instant gratification is kind of expected with watching, with consuming content like this. So the way we're developing content, sometimes students are just not used to receiving, information the same way.
And we were joking at the start of this about TikTok in particular, just to acknowledge that. And for anyone not aware, TikTok tends to be where all of this starts. However, there have been a lot of conversations happening about security related to the use of TikTok, about the level of data they are collecting with the app on your phone and with consuming media through there. So just to put it out there, you can use short form media and video in your class without relying on TikTok specifically. So we mentioned a few platforms like Instagram Reels, like Facebook Watch, like YouTube Shorts, all of which are free and available. And a lot of the content that may start on the big one will trickle into the other ones as well. And as AJ mentioned, states have started forbidding their employees from having TikTok on state-owned equipment. So just be aware that you can incorporate this form of content into your course without relying on one particular application to do so.
And Joe, I think it's important to say, it's a style. Short form video is a style of video that anybody can create on any platform. You can follow the same general rules. And I don't know if anybody's heard the joke, if it starts on TikTok, it ends up on Instagram Reels. The user base is changing. That 60% that might be on one app, when they're consuming it on a different app, that demographic is different. YouTube Shorts kind of was a joke for a while when it came out because nobody was watching short form video on YouTube Shorts. It was just something else. But YouTube in general, the demographic of, young adults that consume their content and media from YouTube versus a traditional streaming platform or cable is astronomical. My nephew is a great example of like someone that can solve a Rubik's Cube in like 25 seconds. He learned because of YouTube, because he sits on his app, his iPad in, the parent controls on the kid-friendly side of YouTube and will just consume content and how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So that's what our students are doing now. So just because the app might be different, we can be creating content in this stylized way that's still relevant and helpful.
And with students coming into our classrooms, having used these platforms to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube or how to cook, how to do anything, there's, again, not to say there's an expectation, but just acknowledging how they're learning and how that might be different from students from 10, 20 years ago. So, and how we could incorporate that type of content into our teaching and learning as well is probably another conversation since we're at 10:36, but there's so much more that could be said. I do want to get to, before we move on to our last topic, some of the questions that came in related to short form videos. So the handling of intellectual property with short form video, which I don't have a direct answer to, I don't think, just because it's not something I've investigated myself. Just a quick comment for me, and then Joe, if you have anything, or correct me if I'm wrong. When you post content on these platforms, you're at the mercy of whatever terms of service those platforms have. So be aware of that if you're producing content on any of those platforms. Related to the sharing of content, again, if it's public and if it's on there, this is my assumption, of course, that there's shareability that's baked into those applications. So you can share and use these videos in your classes and whatnot. And I don't think there's any issue related to copyright that I'm aware of.
From the copyright perspective, no, you're absolutely right.
And then back to intellectual property, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. It's tricky.
It's tricky, and I kind of think it depends on what app you're using. Like you said, it depends on the terms of service of that app. I would say if you're worried about sharing intellectual property, it might not be great to post it publicly, at least in these platforms currently.
And a lot of them, I believe, have like private, you can have a private video that you can share, or like you can control some of the permissions and whatnot of the way you share those, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you could always create a video, like speaking on YouTube, you could always create a video that's unlisted, that lives on the platform, that nobody's going to find unless they have, access to it. If it's, I don't know, the general rule of thumb, even I tell this to students, if you're unsure if it should be posted, don't post it. If there's ever that hesitation of maybe this shouldn't be out there, don't put it out there. But in terms of using it in your classroom, the app that we're not talking about, that is one of the easiest things. All the videos, once they're on there, once they're public, they are completely downloadable. So that content is interesting, because when we first started doing presentations on it, I was like, I can just download these. And on the website, you can just download that video and save it really easily. If we're using something like YouTube Shorts, YouTube and Google Slides, work seamlessly together. So you can be embedding YouTube short videos, which might be on another platform, right in the whole kind of G Suite of applications, and it works pretty seamlessly. Instagram Reels, Facebook Watch, that content, different company, different set of rules. That content's kind of harder to get off of those platforms.
And Melissa asked, again, just to wrap up this part, what are your thoughts on TikTok at the elementary level?
That's kind of been my primary focus, and that's what's fascinating. I think it's changing now, currently. I think maybe a year ago, there was a lot more wiggle room with using it, kind of in that K-12 setting. The students are using it. The students are on there. We know they're consuming content regardless of what, the age limit says it is. It said, for TikTok example, you're supposed to be 13 years of age to be on it. We know that's not happening. They have introduced family pairing, which is a pretty kind of powerful way to kind of see what your kid is doing. If you're setting like a family pairing account up, which is pretty powerful, you can see what types of content they're interacting with. We can moderate the content, but something just with any of these, all the moderation is pretty much community based. So unless something gets flagged, it could be on that app. So especially in like a elementary environment, I would make sure you're screening the content first. We're not letting the kids just go on the app. It tends to be, I don't want to say safer, but it tends to be a little bit safer. But that's still our audience. That's still the audience that wants to consume this media in these kind of short, digestible, bite-sized ways. So it's just kind of using it, but using it with best practice in mind.
AJ mentioned the human brain rewiring itself to allow for faster data consumption. It's interesting to think from like a K2 perspective. Is that rewiring, or is that just the initial wiring? And how is that different than where we started and where we have wound up versus a new generation who's just coming into this, and how that's going to affect our classrooms one day?
It's really interesting to I know we're running out of time, but like to take that step back and see, like how we're responding to new technology. And I guess this Joe could be a transition into like the whole AI kind of side of things. It's amazing if you take that step back to see, how somebody learned 30 years ago to 10 years ago to, how are we teaching a elementary school class now? How are those students, by the time they get to us at a university level, what's their relationship with all this? How has it changed? How has it made them more efficient? How is it, we can look at it from a positive side of efficiency, and they can have, all this knowledge at their fingertips, but what bad habits have kind of in turn kind of come along with that? And the one resource I did want to mention that I found that I thought was cool with short form videos for more of that kind of higher ed level, is the Crash Course. It's a cool website that creates short form video content for different subject areas. It's all free, but it follows that kind of snarky, sarcastic, very informative kind of flow of information. It's kind of cool to check out, but I was interested that it was not targeted at that kind of K to 12 level. It was targeted from grades 8 to 12 and then beyond. So the content's a little more robust, but it does follow that same kind of short form video content kind of style and effect. So it'll be interesting to see how, does that expand in the future?
So speaking of changes to the way that we consume and retrieve information, we only have a few minutes left, but I want to quickly acknowledge and I guess maybe tease ChatGPT a little bit and just talk about it and hear your thoughts on it, of course. And shameless plug for just a moment, on the ITDS side, we've been working on a lot of great content related to ChatGPT and acknowledging it from a kind of like a neutral place, I'll say. So not to say it's problematic, not to say it's beneficial, but it's just to acknowledge both sides of that, because there are a lot of very on one side or the other of that argument right now. So we try to take a holistic approach in how we went about acknowledging it. And I linked in the chat to a resource that ITDS has put together related to ChatGPT, and we're also running a workshop soon. But Joe, I want to hear your thoughts on this latest. It started over the holiday, right? We all came back from winter break to learn about this platform that had attracted over 1 million people within 5 days. So let's hear your thoughts on it.
I think it's fascinating. I think we're all fascinated with it, but I think while we're fascinated with it, I think a lot of people are also a little, I don't want to say scared, but a little kind of skeptical of it. And I think that's really interesting because it kind of takes a look at the whole bigger relationship we all have with technology. I'm sure, 20 years ago when somebody was like, oh, like what is Google? Well, not 20 years ago, but you know what I mean? When the internet was first a thing, there was definitely some skeptics. So now it's interesting now that all this, like these AI chatbots are here, because the benefits they could have could be, insurmountable, but we also have to kind of think about it from like a responsibility kind of perspective. How do we keep our students safe when they're using it? What's the relationship like in the classroom when they engage with it? And how powerful, how much do we want to give to kind of see the benefit of what this technology can do? And it's kind of creating responsible environments where AI can be used, whether it's ChatGPT. I mean, if anybody has followed the news, like Google's new kind of AI model that came out tanked their stock price $100 million in like a day. There might have been more, it's a million or billion, but it was a lot. I think it was million. So it just kind of, looking at it from how we're going to use it in our classroom, the possibilities could be endless, but we need to use it responsibly.
And how you use it, again, it kind of, getting back to what I was saying when I introduced it, to what extent you use it, don't use it, acknowledge it, don't acknowledge it. It's being used in so many different ways, right? And it's really up to, I guess, faculty to decide related to their subject matter. Is there a fear in this in terms of students just using it to dump in a prompt and produce an essay and submit it? Is there a way to embrace it and encourage the use of it? It's really, to me, I think it's very subject specific. If I were teaching writing versus teaching, I don't know, biology or something else, where so finding ways to use it or not use it, and just be, I guess, awareness to start at least, right?
And yeah, and I know we're kind of out of time, but there was a few that I did find that were, kind of different in relation to some of the other things we talked about. We talked about Canva before. Canva has an AI built in that's going to help you create content. What does that look like? How well does that work? So that's something to check out. That's free. Canva is free for educators. If you sign up with an EDU account, you can get the full kind of suite of that and get unlimited access to their AI feature, which is called Magic Write. Chat GPT-esque, but kind of cool in creating content. Another one is Tomei, which is pretty cool. It's kind of helps you create content in a presentation-based kind of generative text environment. Educators get a free 100 credits to start off with. Yes, the AI feature is free on Canvas if you have the Pro account. Otherwise, if you just sign in with a regular account, it limits you to credits as well.
On Canva.
On Canva. Sorry, I keep saying Canvas. I'm sorry.
Canvas does not have AI, to my knowledge, at the moment.
Then there's a bunch of other ones. There's really interesting one to be checking out. Microsoft, who backed ChatGPT and invested pretty substantially in there, is Bing's new chat. You can get on the wait list and also preview it. That one is having some mixed results right now. If anyone's following the news on that, some really interesting stuff going on with that. Another cool one that I found was DeepL, DEEP, and then capital L. All of these have like funky names. DeepL is cool. It's an AI translator that'll fix things like the tone of your, sentence. It'll talk about sentence structure. It'll talk about grammatical errors within your writing. And if anybody uses Grammarly, it kind of reminded me of Grammarly, but a little bit smarter. So there's a lot of cool AI tools coming out and rolling out, and I think, yeah, AJ, you're right. There's a lot of cool tools that are coming out, but we're not quite there yet. But technology moves so fast, and now that there's interest and investment in this new technology, I think we're going to start seeing improvements fast. And kind of staying on whether you feel positive towards it or negative towards it or afraid of how it's going to impact classroom learning. We're going to navigate this together. All of our departments, anyone that deals with technology on our campus, I think, is thinking about this. So I think it's really interesting for all of us. We're living in a very interesting time, and we're all going to figure out how we can kind of navigate this together. Whether it's creating assignments that are different than what our conventional assignments are, that we can put something in AI and spit it out. So it'll be interesting.
So I know we're a little over time. Joe and I predicted that this would likely happen, and it came to fruition, but I do want to offer an opportunity for questions or thoughts or comments. We covered a lot of ground in 49 minutes. If you remember 49 minutes ago, we started talking just about the ADP Center more broadly. So of course, if there are any questions about the services offered or any other ADP Center related questions, feel free to drop those in the chat, or at this point, just unmute, or any questions about any of the topics we discussed related to EdTech.
I do see Melissa's question because I just opened the chat, and Melissa, yes, LinkedIn is still a thing. And we definitely recommend creating a LinkedIn profile. We offer a full line of workshops that we have coming up. The next one is, we have one end of April, and we just had our first one the other day, but you could always go to adpcenter.org. If under the contact us tab, there is a way to schedule an appointment with me or any of our graduate assistants.
There was a question about from Patricia about the benefits of Tome. Did I say that right? Was it Tome? Yes.
So it's an AI-powered kind of generative storytelling presentation kind of application. It's really interesting. If you're trying to create a traditional presentation, I think that's not the right application. But if you're trying to create kind of an interactive handout / environment for your students to engage in, it reminds me a little bit of Prezi, but more interactive, more engaging. Tome is cool because you could have live links embedded within this kind of platform. If anybody remembers, or it kind of lived shortly, I don't even know if anybody heard of it, Microsoft Sway, it kind of has that level of engagement. Tome, you get 100 free educator credits if you're signing up with your Montclair account. And it's really good mobile. It's very mobile friendly.
There was a question about offering a workshop on how to use ChatGPT to write lesson plans for K-12 teachers. Well, I guess I'll just drop a second shameless plug on within one conversation here. ITDS is offering where we just created a new ChatGPT workshop responding to ChatGPT with effective instructional design. Part of that workshop, the plan is for it to be kind of like a test kitchen sort of a environment where it's not just going to be us kind of talking about it. We're also going to have opportunities for you to engage with it as well. And that might be one of the prompts that we plug in and explore together. So feel free to drop by that workshop. We're going to begin offering it next week. I'm losing track of time. And then I believe every 3 weeks after that. So feel free, if you can't join us the first time, to sign up for it. And Joe, I don't know if anything's going to be happening in the ADP Center related to. Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't have anything currently on the books for this semester, ChatGPT related, but doesn't mean we can't collaborate. Doesn't mean we can't come up with something, especially for our K-12 partner districts. I know we're talking about it. So if we're talking about it, all educators are talking about it, and I know it's such a hot button issue. So how we respond to it could be interesting, and I think there's a lot of room for collaboration.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Awesome.
Joe, AJ says that you're the best, and you always have been.
Oh, thanks, AJ.
Well, if no other questions, thank you everyone for joining. I know we covered a lot of ground, so I hope you're leaving with at least one good idea today. We'll be back on March 17th, a month from today, actually, exactly 1 month from today, for our third Fridays ITDS of the spring semester. We'll be joined by Sue Wright from Writing Studies, and we'll be having a conversation about active learning through the use of polling within her synchronous online class. Joe, thank you so much. This is a great conversation, and thank you everyone for coming by today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.